Hey guys, I just watched this interview of once again Jordan Peterson with Piers Morgan, in which Piers Morgan actually asked him about the tweet which he did, which was just a one-liner: "Give them hell, Netanyahu," and a lot of people were upset about it for obvious reasons. When he was asked about this tweet of his, and he talked about how he had made an audience among the Muslims. And I know a lot of young Muslims following the words of Jordan Peterson. And he was sort of like regretting it, which he didn't say explicably, but he was sort of feeling bad because he felt like he has lost that part of the audience.
On October the 7th, you tweeted, "Give them hell, Netanyahu, enough
Yeah,
is enough." And you got some blowback for that, as everybody
yeah, a
who
lot.
says anything about this. Were you
Yeah.
surprised by the scale of the blowback? Do you wish you'd phrased that tweet differently? Do you have any regrets about it?
Well, I was upset because I had developed somewhat of a Muslim following on YouTube, and I was very happy about that. A lot of people on the Islamic side of the world were watching my biblical lectures, for example, and I've had extensive conversations with Muslims on my YouTube channel. And, I burnt some of that up, and I'm not sure I did that. Well, I would say I'm certain I didn't do that in the most productive manner.
Having said those words and listening to those was even more disappointing, because as a psychologist who is a clinical psychologist, and me having the same pathway, I just started wondering, there were better words that he could have chosen
I wish I had that wisdom.
and said. So he is worried about losing an audience rather than active trauma which the Palestinians are facing. Especially, he's not a politician, he's a psychologist. And he says that in the video, "I'm a psychologist." And then he's not able to politically give answers to the ongoing problem. But at the same time, he does have an opinion, and that opinion does not reflect the people of Palestine. I mean, I see people who are suffering, who are Palestinian, and who are suffering in this conflict and what is happening, this genocide, this war, which is waged by Israel. We have something in therapy we call as trauma informed care. We listen to the people who are traumatized or who are ongoing. This idea of post traumatic stress disorder. And that is something that we treat as therapists after the trauma is over. But when we talk about the issue of Palestine, it's really ongoing. It's not something in which there was a period of rest, and then we can talk about the therapy and the greater things. So the trauma informed care is about validating what the people who are traumatized are actually going through. And that's why therapy cannot be neutral. Yeah, it's neutral in the sense that you don't go on imposing your values upon your clients or your patients. But then there are those universal humane values or values of humanity, and that is seeing the children that are being killed, seeing that a genocide which is happening, and Israel is attacking the places of like hospitals and refugee camps. And you, as a psychologist, could have spoken about that. You could have spoken the words of healing, that what can lead to healing to the people of Palestine, for instance. And rather than that, you're just worried about losing an audience. So that was a really disappointing interview in that sense, and with no actual insights. So an idea of how you heal the trauma is to have that sense of closure, is to know, and so that your therapist, when they listen to you, they acknowledge and they validate what you're going through and what you have been going through. People, especially who have families in Palestine, and we see them in therapy, and they are like, we don't know the next moment if they're going to be there or not. So we acknowledge, we validate that these people are actually suffering. And that's where it starts. And we have to choose our sides, and we have to know who is the perpetrator of this genocide. We have to be really clear about it, because therapy has to be based in values. And that's not only the values of the value clarification that we ask from our clients. It's also, as a therapist, you need to be clear with yourself. So I think it was important for me to share that with you all, and know that we have to be on the side of the people that are being oppressed and that are being subjugated. And in therapy, it's a safe space where a person is not judged, where they can come up and speak about what they are going through. And that in these times does need a lot of validation, because the increasing anxiety levels of the people, especially I see Muslims in my therapy practice, and because of what is happening in Palestine. Now imagine the people who already have a mental health diagnosis and are living in Palestine and are running out of the supplies of medicine, and people who are not living there but they have families back there and they're already worried about that. Imagine the trauma. Imagine knowing that next day it's not certain that if you will be alive or not. So it's so many things together. So so this trauma doesn't just have one cause. It's a complex trauma. It's an ongoing trauma, and we need to acknowledge this as it is, rather than trying to sugarcoat it and calling it complicated and calling it we don't know what's going to happen. At least the people that we deal with, in whatever capacity that we have, we need to acknowledge that these people are traumatized, and they are traumatized because there is an aggressor, and that aggressor is Israel. So once that part is clarified, then I think the healing can take place in a safe space like psychotherapy.